Hey, Patrick, how you doing, bud?
Not too bad at all, buddy. So, what have you for me today?
We have Mr. Richard Reeves on the Chris Williams show, or Williamson show. His key areas of focus are education, workforce, family, structural focus for men. He wrote a book called Of Boys and Men, and he's the
Okay.
president for the American Institute for Boys and Men. And he's got an interesting proposition that we need to hear. Amidst
Okay.
all the other wild things that are going on in the world, I think it's still important that we pay attention to the plight of people in the Western countries. He's pretty international with his job and his function and the things that he does and the things that he speaks about. And he goes to lots of feminist conferences on an international scale. So get a
So
lot
he's
of
not just primarily focused on the United States. He obviously goes abroad to other.
well, he is the president of the American Institute for Boys and Men, but I
Yeah.
think the plight of boys and men in all the G20s are pretty severe. You see our
Okay.
dropping birth rates and lots of government assistance for women that men don't get access to, having to do with the structural breakdown of the family, where if there isn't a man around to form the protection and provision, then the local government, state, county, national government will take care. So, but he's got a lot of really interesting opinions, and I thought it would be a little bit of a break from all the harrowing topics we've been covering lately, from
Yeah, that's
Cuba
true. Yeah.
to Iran to all those kinds of things. So, bit of a break from Sarah Payne. But we'll get back to Sarah Payne because she's got a lot of good things to say, and we're going to be probably doing a couple episodes with her. Well, reviewing some of the things that she has done. I doubt we'll be able to get her as a guest as much as we might want
Yes.
that. So,
Yeah, our budget doesn't stretch that far.
no. I think we have about 15 pence right now. We're doing all right. You know what? I don't know that we've made money on this yet. I don't think we have.
No.
Well, I think it's important. We just want to get our voice out there, and I think that
Exactly.
again, two seasoned voices, one complex world. Let it, learn it.
Yeah.
All right. We'll let these boys cook a little, and then put in our 2 cents, as it were. Here we go.
Come to think about these factions, it's very hard for me to answer that because I see it through the lens that I approach it. And I am at quite a lot of meetings and conferences stuff now, which would be described as feminist meetings. And I would say that slowly but surely, the women's movement or feminist movement is coming to realize that demonizing or dismissing men is not a good strategy.
So that's a pretty good baseline, right? When you demonize men, you cause all kinds of strife in society, right? If you just dismiss them as if they're not contributing, it's really, really difficult, because almost all the infrastructure that has been built by men. Not discounting women's contribution. I am not doing that. The fact is that men have built most of the infrastructure in which we function, right?
Do you think men in the G20 feel more isolated from society?
Well, I think part of that has to do with moving from the country to the city, right? So a city is just a big giant zoo where we put ourselves in little apartments and houses, and we interact in a way that we're not really designed evolutionarily for, right? We're designed to be in villages of about 200 to 300 people, where you can keep the people safe, and it's a very tribal thing. So we've removed tribalism for nationalism, but we still want to do tribalism, which is why we get factions and sides, right?
Yes.
So the United States has two really big tribes, the Democrats and the Republicans, right? And when you identify with your tribe, you tend to other the other tribe, right? As opposed to sitting down, critically thinking through processes and coming to compromises. Your deal is my tribe is right and your tribe is wrong, and if I other you, any means justify the ends that I attain, right?
Yeah, we see that more and more, especially say in the two-party system in the United States. They seem very kind of dug in on both sides.
Right. And it seems like there's a strange amalgamation of values, right? And then one side literally can't hear the other side. They just can't, right? There's huge issues. Abortion, let's say abortion. I don't want to bring up any side of that argument, but that argument about what is right and what is morally bankrupt is very, very different, right? From one side to the other. And there's lots of things, immigration, things like that. Stolen land versus what's a national border mean, and all that kind of stuff. So, but when people get too dug in, they just can't come to good solutions, right?
No, they can't seem to find any kind of common ground, as they would say.
Yeah, it doesn't tend to work out very well. because while we're busy othering the other, we're not making good cases for our own side either, right?
No.
There's a breakdown of communication at that point. So,
and unfortunately, the normal men and women usually get stuck in the middle then between both sides.
Yeah, the big middle is stuck because the fringes are hollering at each other across that base, right?
Yeah.
And the fringes say, you must believe absolutely in our direction with no nuance. This is the party stance. And if you don't believe this, then you're a lefty or a righty or you're whatever pejorative term they want to use, right?
Where the vast majority of people are neither left or right. I would class most people roughly in the center.
I class most people
get on with their lives.
I class most people as trying to make a euro or a dollar to feed their family.
Exactly.
Right? And they just don't have time to play the games. They just don't.
No.
Right. And then you're constantly inundated by the algorithm to believe a thing in an echo chamber as best they can, because that gets more clicks, right? So controversy gets more clicks. And since controversy gets more clicks and more likes and more interaction, then people are going to do that. And that's part of our downfall, actually. You know what? We're middle of the road. You and I disagree on stuff, but because we're not fiery, I believe that this and that and the other thing is super important. If you don't believe, like, get off your damn soapbox.
I've seen some of the comments and some of them that have removed.
Right.
But it is quite interesting to see, even when we cover any topic, some people are just so dug in on their side, they won't listen to the other side whatsoever. If it disagrees with them, any small bit at all, they get out the pitchforks, as they would say long ago.
Well, and the other one is I've been called everything from a Nazi to a libo. Oh, you're a Nazi because this, or you're a libo. I'm like, no, I have a compromising position in the center somewhere, because there's nuance to every situation, right?
But I think that's the difference between, say, European politics and US politics, where in Europe, no matter what side of the aisle you're on, there's a party there for you. There's a tribe there for you. Where, unfortunately, with a two-party system, it's not so subtle.
Right.
So only word I can describe it.
Our third biggest party is actually the Libertarian Party, and they're for small government. And they have some seats in some places, but it's not like the Tories and all that, like the UK style, or even the 17 political parties you have in Ireland. Right? It's just a little bit different. So when those coalition governments get together, right, because you have a prime minister and a house, and the way that you formate with the Dáil Éireann and the what's your upper house called?
So if it's Shannon and we have Dáil Éireann. The
Shannon and the Dáil Éireann, right? So, but we don't have a prime minister or that formation. We have a constitutional republic. It's a little bit different, right?
Yes.
And so it's going to be different just based on that, right? Plus, we're a massive, massive country too.
But you have to remember, you're not the only constitutional republic. Say you have Germany, you have Poland, and so on.
Right. And but we're even different than that, you know?
Yeah, but as I say, most European or most modern countries have moved away from the two-party system, because the more voices you have within government, I think you work out with a better compromise. The word I could describe.
Right, and there's less othering, because in the United States, the othering is all of one side versus all the other side, or over 90% of the represented constituents in the country are either Republican or Democrat. And to vote in a primary, you need to be a Republican or a Democrat, right?
Oh, you have to register your party before you vote?
Right. So you're registered as a Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, Green Party, Communist, Socialist, which is also weird because you're not really supposed to be registered as a socialist or a communist, functionally.
So, because that's the way, well, I'm saying that's a way different from, say, the way we vote in Ireland, where you just go to the ballot box and vote who you want, and that's it. You don't actually register for any particular party before you vote.
I got it. But this is for primaries, right? So you have a primary, which is going to decide amongst all the Democrats, Republicans, Libertarians, whomever. Right. And then when you go to the final head-to-head, or if there's a Libertarian that happened to get in there, the three, right? They're the ones who are going to be on the ballot for the actual election, right? California's gubernatorial election is a little bit different in that the top two, regardless of party, are the ones who do the runoff. So right now, Steve Hilton.
That sounds very fair, actually.
Right. So Steve Hilton and Chad Bianco are the two front runners in California for governor, and they're both Republicans. So if it comes to be that those two are the two, the top Democrat is Tom Steyer, who's functioning as social democrat, and he says a bunch of wild stuff. We went over that the other day where he says,
yeah, you were showing me some of his
right. So he says functionally, I don't think federal supremacy is a thing, and we should arrest ICE agents, and we should get back all the illegal immigrants that were sent out from the state. And it seems like a fairly non-functional platform, but he's the front runner for the Democratic Party for governor in the state of California. Right?
But do you think that's why men and boys are a bit lost in the United States at the moment? Is it just because of the two-party system where they can't seem to find, say, if they like a little bit of left and they like a little bit of right policy, you know, they kind of like a little bit of, as I say, both dishes. There's nowhere in the center where they could, you know, find their tribe, you could say.
Well, there's a couple of problems. One is that there's an over-feminization of the American education system, along with very, very strong teachers unions that don't seem to have the children's needs, wants, desires, and the ability to critically think, which I think is the big component that's missing in American schools. So if there isn't a way to critically think through problems, as opposed to becoming an individual thinker, you become an activist for whatever. And that's based on one side is right and one side is wrong, you need to pick your side. In colleges now in the United States, the comparison to a conservative type teacher, regardless of party, and a liberal type is 13-1. There are 13 liberal instructors and professors per one conservative. On top of that, you have a massive administration staff that is 95 to 99% liberal in their leanings. It makes it very, very difficult to produce critical thinkers if that's not what your goal is, right? If that's not your goal, then you're not going to reach that goal, right?
Wow.
Anyway, so we have gone very, very far afield. Let's get us back to Mr. Reeves and Mr. Williamson. Here we go.
It's happening patchily and slowly but surely, but it is happening. I'm seeing a lot of leaders in those spaces saying, okay, we have got to do better about the boys and the men. Now, you might say, well, they're only doing it for tactical reasons or political reasons. And they will very often say, because it's good for women, right? And so I have this interesting disagreement with them, and I'm very open about this. So they say we should care about boys and men because we care about women. And I'm saying we should care about boys and men. I just end the sentence earlier than you, right?
And that's super important, right? So we'll take a relationship, right? What is considered a regular type relationship, right? So if I am going to be in a relationship with a female person, right, the best thing I can do for my relationship is to be the best me that I can be the best husband I can be, or be the best mate that I can be, right? Because that is what is advantageous in that relationship, right? If I provide, I provision, I provide secure, I do all those things that I need to do as a good husband or as a good mate, then my partner is going to be able to flourish, right? So he's saying function is the same thing at a societal level. Boys and men, right? And you should check out his book, Of Boys and Men. It's by Richard Reeves. If I am the best that I can be, and you are the best that you can be, and we're all good faith actors, right? Then our counterparts will be able to flourish, right? If they have the opportunity to be the best that they can be, right? So then we're all uplifting each other by ensuring that our moral compass is as north as it can be. We're believing as many true things as possible. We're critically thinking through processes, and we respect others. And we're not doing something for another group, right? We as men improve as men, and then women improve as women, and we're going to have a much tighter knit society, better relationships, and better outcomes. It just makes sense, right?
It does. Yeah, I understand what he's saying. I'm just looking at, I do understand his premise, and then it makes sense. If you uplift one group, it uplifts everyone else.
Right.
It makes sense.
Right. So if you have something super contingent on something else, the United States had this wild thing we did sometime back with BLM, the Black Lives Matter push, right? And I know, super hot topic, right? Super fiery. But here's the deal. Black Lives Matter. I agree with that. But that's because every conscious being alive on the planet matters. All of us matter as people, right? I don't like someone more or care about someone more based on the melanin in their skin or other characteristics that they have no control over. People have inherent worth as people. They just do, right? So this is functionally a situation he's discussing where you have worth as a boy or man. You also have worth as a girl or woman, right? You have worth as a conscious being. right? But if you make one thing contingent on the other, then you're still serving the thing it's contingent on. If we're taking care of boys and men because it's better for women, then we're not doing a thing to inherently improve men. We're doing a thing to make men better for women, right? Like that isn't how that works as far as a tighter knit society and having it be better for everybody overall.
Yeah. And what's his opinion on, say, single mothers and so on?
I'm not sure about that one. We would actually probably have to do another episode on where that goes and what that's about. I think this is more the negative impact effect of doing something contingent on another group, right?
Right.
Boys and men are being demonized. They're being cast aside. It's creating a loneliness epidemic that is insane. But because of that loneliness epidemic, there is a female loneliness epidemic, right? One is contingent on the other in that case, because we're not making sure that they have the ability to critically think through processes, and they're not demonized for aspects of their person they can't control, male, female, and any other. So, all right.
So that's where you would see the likes of Andrew Tate and so on rising up in the last couple of years to kind of fill that void that men and boys have within their lives.
And like Jordan Peterson as well. Like, you need to be a better man. If you're a better man, then you can more provide and provision.
Yes.
And just be a better human. And if you're a better human, again, the contingent thing will just happen. If you are better as a man, then you will be better for a woman. It just makes sense, right? All right.
Yeah.
We are not very far into this, and we go far afield. Let's let them cook a little bit longer this time.
In the same way that we don't say we should care about women because it's good for the economy or good for men, right? I think we should care about boys and men more generally.
I've had to do that too. I had this piece about zero-sum empathy, and I tried.
Zero-sum empathy is the first thing that happens before suicidal empathy. It would seem. It's the logical progression, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So think about that for just a minute, right? All right, here we go.
To legitimize the reason, there was a lot of things, and it wasn't just this, but I remember I sort of tossed this coin into the pool that I knew would be effective, which was if you don't care about boys and men falling behind and also whine about there being no good men to date, that is the equivalent of sort of mating logic seppuku, that you are creating the precise dearth of eligible partners that you say that you and your daughters and your friends and your sisters are looking for. Like, if you're not prepared to help boys and men, you can't go, where are all the good men at? Because that's precisely what is causing the lack of eligible partners that you're talking about. But I didn't want to have to couch good men are good in as much as they can be of service to you as a woman.
Yeah.
It's just that we should care about the falling behind of any group.
We should care about human flourishing, right? And if there's a group in society that aren't doing well, then we should care about them. I just...
Right, 100%. So human flourishing. If everyone is flourishing, then we are all having better lives, right? So the baseline for humanity is tragedy and misery. And any day that isn't like that is a pretty damn good day, right?
Yes.
That just makes sense, right? But in all of that, it behooves us to attempt to assist those who are not as well off as we are, but not to the point of suicidal empathy, right? Maintaining national borders, maintaining the strength of our people, not demonizing groups. And when they fall behind, you help them, but you don't do it to your own detriment. And that seems to be part of this suicidal empathy problem, right? I want to help others, and at the same time, I ignore the reality of the situation to attempt to help others. And then we reduce ourselves to whatever third world kind of bastion we become when we lose our national identity.
Yeah, I've seen that used in talking points especially over the last few years.
Right.
That we're sacrificing our own countries just to uplift everyone. But if you sacrifice your own country to uplift another country, both sides will lose.
100%. All right, here we go.
I just think that's just, for me, that's just a straightforward moral proposition. Now, I'm also, I'm obviously different groups have different agendas, right? And so if you care about this group or that issue because it affects that other issue, I'm fine with that. So when people kind of say, like, Melinda French Gates has, supported me and Gary Barker because it's part of a gender equality thing, right? And she's very clear. She says, it's not good for women and girls if boys and men are struggling, right? Now, you might say, Oh, okay. So this is where the kind of, again, the reactionaries will be like, oh, of course she has to couch it as that. And it's kind of, I'm like, guys, for the love of God, she is a global feminist. Like, what do you want? Right. And she's supporting my work. She's supporting boys and men's work. Like, no. They're the purists. They're the ones that are saying, no. She has to completely come over to our side. I'm like, guys, take a win. Right. Of course, as a feminist, she says she's going to couch it that way. Yeah. Right. That's okay.
Do you find yourself doing the same thing?
Couching it that way? No, I do openly with Melinda and with others. I was at a Reykjavik forum with some leading women. And I'm just like, no, I'm like, my position and the position of the American Institute for Boys and Men is just very straightforward. Like, we care about boys and men doing better and flourishing, right? We just care about that, period. Now, is that also good for the economy? Is it good for families? Is it good for women? Is it good for, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. All those things, of course, 100%.
Yeah, it improves your society overall. That makes sense.
Right. But if you're busy demonizing them and casting them aside, then those who build the infrastructure and those who are the backbone of the society and those who are first responders and members of the military and those who sacrifice will choose not to sacrifice if they're demonized. They just won't.
You see that all across G20 at the moment when they're trying to rearm their countries. That more and more young men are just not joining the armed forces in any shape, form, or fashion. Not even joining the Gardaí. At the moment, they're having problems recruiting as well. Not even joining police force. They just don't seem to want to do anything or move or improve themselves in any way.
Well, it used to be that it was a position of honor in society to protect society. Now people are not finding that their societies are worth or something worth protecting, and that is ill for all the G20s. That is not the best place to be. You know,
exactly.
And we have a political class that is failing to adhere to the desire of the constituency. They're like, we don't want this. And they're like, we're going to keep giving you that. And they're like, we don't want that though. And then they keep getting it forced down their throat. And they're like, okay, I guess we don't have a thing worth protecting anymore because you literally can't hear what we're telling you. Don't do the thing or do the thing. Here we go.
Of course, yes. Right. In the same way that the Women's Services Prevention Initiative, their tagline is, when women are healthy, communities thrive. I'm like, true. Also true that when men are healthy, communities thrive.
So the obverse of the coin is the thing that sometimes people can't see because they're so focused on their side of the thing, right?
Yeah, they're so focused on their camp, they can't see the other side.
Yeah, so the other tribe, even if they're saying the thing you're saying are wrong.
Yeah.
Well, you didn't say it's women, or you didn't say it's X, Y, or Z. It's obviously that, not the thing you think. So we become hyper-focused on one side of an issue with zero compromise toward the other side. At all.
Yeah, it's very damaging to society at the moment. Seeing it more and more, everyone digging into their own little camps and not compromising in any way. As he was showing there, it's really damaging to everyone. Sometimes you have to look at the other side of the fence. As much as it might make you feel uncomfortable, you still have to understand both sides of every argument.
Well, and sometimes arguments aren't even that simple. It's not that just there's two sides, there's lots of perspectives. And with lots of perspectives, we can come to better conclusions generally. We can critically think, come to appropriate compromises, and make as many of the constituency happy, or at least not unhappy, right? Because that's what a compromise is. We're all going to be a little unhappy with it, but it's something we can live with.
Any good deal, actually.
Yeah, pretty much. Just ask your boy Trump, the deal maker, right? All right, here we go.
Oh, yeah.
But you don't have to condition it. And I honestly think there's a deeper point there, which is that men in particular, they kind of see the conditioning coming. You see it like, oh, well, if there's something bad happens, like men do bad thing A. Oh, now we should care about boys and men. Yeah. And they see that conditionality. They see, oh, you only care about me if X, if I do something bad or something bad happens. And what they actually need to hear is, no, dude, we just care about you.
Yeah.
Right. So it's conditional and it's based on attention. If I do a bad thing, I'll get attention. And then attention, it doesn't matter if it's good attention or bad attention, as long as I get the attention.
Yeah, you see that with quite a lot of a lot of kids who just fall by the wayside.
Yeah.
I've seen it so much especially over my lifetime, I think.
Well, because of the business you're in of caretaking for youth who is in dire straits. It was your job to do the thing. And that's
you get to see
really good.
You get to see an awful lot of young people just left by the wayside, unfortunately. And it's so sad.
Sorry about that. I was trying to suppress a sneeze.
There you go.
I held my face away and I was like, oh no.
Yeah, it shows everyone we're human.
Yeah. We are not an AI bot. We are not AI bots. I am Alex Johansson. He is Patrick McCallum.
Yeah, but as I was saying, in my old career, I see so many, especially a lot of young boys who are, how can I put it, getting attention in all the wrong places, as you were saying.
Well, I used to counsel young boys when I was doing sports stuff, you know, and a lot of these families are functionally broken families. They don't have a leader in the household who is taking the time to make things as best they can for their children. They're just not.
Well, the funny thing is, I've seen statistics over the years, but when I was working, I dealt with married couples, cohabitating couples, single parents, so on. And no matter what way the household was structured, it just came down to parents not being parents. If it was two parents or one parent, it was just parents trying to be friends instead of leaders. Unfortunately.
Yeah, they weren't taking care of their charge. They were trying to be a buddy. And the child doesn't have agency yet. They don't know. You have to instill those moral and ethical values in them so that they're better citizens, right?
Exactly. So it doesn't matter if it's single parents or two-parent household or so on. It's just parents just being parents, no matter what way the dynamic is.
Right. If they're derelict in that duty, it's not good for society as a whole. Here we go.
Exactly.
What do you make of the current state of mating and dating?
Well, as a 56-year-old man who's been married for almost my entire adult life,
your expert subject.
Fortunately, I have 3 sons in their 20s at various stages. That helps, and a bunch of younger friends. I mean, I do. It comes back a bit to this politicization point, which is, I worry that the message that young women are getting from the left is life's really tough for women now, and it's the fault of all those men and the patriarchy. And the message that young men are getting from the right is life's pretty tough for young men right now, and it's the fault of all those woke feminists and those women.
Right. So we're placing blame as opposed to solving issues.
Exactly. And that's the problem, is both sides are trying to demonize each other instead of trying to find a middle ground.
Yeah, there's no way to bridge that gap if that's what you're hearing consistently. It's difficult because of another tribe. They're trying to put you down, right? But when you see the agenda, you're like, oh, well, yeah, that's what they're trying to do, because everybody wants to be right. No one wants to be wrong, and they want their tribe to win. And that's not the best.
Exactly. And I see that more and more so when we are doing research for these videos, where we get to see a lot of right-wing pundits and left-wing pundits, by the way, both sides, and they really go after each other. I mean, no hold barred. They're the devil incarnate. On both sides, by the way, are guilty of it.
Right, and that's
there's no compromise whatsoever, even in the conversation.
Right, that's the fringes screaming across the chasm, right?
Yes.
And then everybody else is caught in the middle because those voices are just so loud, right? And when you have loud, charismatic people on either end, they're going to sway the populace. They just do.
Oh, big time! I've seen so many times. I'm thinking of a few pundits we've watched over the time.
Well, and it seems like there's influencers who are not subject matter experts who are dipping their oar into spaces where they don't know a thing, right? So you have a subject matter expert, say in physics, and the physics expert says, based on years of experiments and years of skull sweat and hard work, this is a theory that we've come up with, right? This is the hypothesis. This is the theory. And you have an influencer who says, here, look at my ass. It's real pretty. I don't think that way. And people are like, oh, well, I guess it's not that way. The problem is that it's not a 50-50 scale. When somebody says, I have an emotional distress problem with the thing you've said, even though it has evidentiary value and you've done all the skull sweat to achieve some kind of hypothesis theory that's functional, you have someone who isn't in the space that's saying, well, you're wrong, right? But they're taken as two countervailing opinions that are both holding the same weight, which they are not.
No, and we've seen that in so many different, I'm going to say, quotations, theories for different subject matters over time doing this show. And it's shocking how many millions of people take, as you say, non-experts' expert opinion. it's absolutely shocking that people don't seem to have the ability to go out and do their own research for any subject, by the way, no matter what it is, either education or whatever, that they just take these, as you say, influencers' face value opinions as hard facts.
There is a guy that we watch sometimes. I don't think we've covered any of his stuff, but everything he does, he caveats in, look, I'm just this guy who lives here and I'm wearing my robe. It's Asmongold, right?
Asmongold, yes.
Right. He couches the things he says, and look, this is my opinion. It may or may not be right, but here's why I think the thing, right?
Yes.
And he'll say, hey, that's a based opinion, or that's absolutely wild. But he does it to anybody, anywhere, left, right, center. If they're screaming from the parapets, he's like, yeah, I don't think that one's right. Here's why, right?
Yeah.
Right. And it's difficult to follow his stuff as far as sometimes why the opinion is the opinion that he has, but he does eventually in almost every episode justify why he feels the way he does about a thing. It isn't just a throwaway thing, right? And I respect that. But there's a lot of other influencers out there who just say, well, this is the right thing because I said. I'm like, there's nothing that you've said that has any bearing on the truth. You're just spitting into the chasm. You're just throwing an opinion out there that isn't helping. When we do these shows, we are trying to come up with, from our perspective and our experience in the world, why a thing is a good thing or a bad thing. And then Patrick and I will disagree vehemently. There are some things that he and I really don't get on about. But the thing is I would go to County Cork and have a beer with the man, and it would be just fine. It'd be fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Because
as I say, both sides, like, we do disagree on a lot of things, because we do come from completely different sides of the same coin, you could say. But obviously I'm European, you're US, so we're going to see things differently. But we do try to find a compromise every now and again.
Well, and I don't disrespect your opinion. I'm like, okay, there's a reason you believe the way you believe. I'm not going to assume I'm wrong to start with, but I'm going to assume sometimes I don't have all the information. Right? And sometimes I've said, look, Brett, like, you have an opinion that's errant, and here's why I think this is. And you're like, okay, you're right. That's an emotional appeal. It's anecdotally based, and I really need to think more on the subject or the process and come up to a better solution. We both do the same thing, right? But there are some things we don't budge on, but it doesn't mean we're going to disrespect each other or demonize the other person. And that's just mature adult communication. I don't feel the way you do about it because this is my experience, the things I have seen. Here's some things of evidentiary value. Here's some facts. And then a lot of times you can't find facts that jive, right? Because you're like, but it's got to be like this, right? Like the cornucopia on the Fruit of the Loom underwear. There was never a cornucopia, that kind of thing. So,
yeah,
right,
exactly.
Let's get back to it. Oh, go ahead. Yeah. Go ahead. Drop it.
As I was saying is, I wish that more people on both sides of the aisle sat down and had a frank discussion. Because I remember years ago, well, not that long ago, before lockdown and the world went to a very strange place for a while, that I remember Jordan Peterson used to have discussions with the other side, hardline communists and so on stage, and they would hash out facts, and where both sides would sit down on a stage like that and see where the other side is coming from. That doesn't seem to be happening in the last year or two, or in the last 3 years even.
No, since we came out of COVID, it doesn't seem to be a thing. It seems like the camps were hardened in their position and they just don't want to give it up, right?
Yeah.
All right, let's get back to this thing. He's got some more important stuff to say. Here we go.
So they're being encouraged, respectively, to blame each other for their real problems.
That's bad.
That is a colossal waste of political energy and not true. It's also creating some difficulties, I think, around dating, mating, etc., because we do see now that political polarization is affecting dating and mating. I worry a lot, and Dan Cox has written for us on this, that you see this decline in dating in high school and among kind of young adults. I think that's a huge problem because that's where you develop the relational skills, the ability to endure and deliver rejection, grace.
Yeah, your political party and political opinion has become a wildly important part of a relationship. When I was growing up, one of my parents was a Republican, the other was a Democrat, and they would have super good discussions about why they believed, right? So it was that the ends are important. So the ends are, we need to achieve X. And one of my parents would say, I think the best way to do it is this. And my other parent would say, the best way to do it is that. And they would talk about it. right?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
when we got to 12, 13, 14, we would sit down and be a part of that conversation. Well, what do you think about that? And me or my sister would say something wild. And they're like, well, maybe consider this. Oh, that's pretty interesting. I didn't even think about that. But then my parents, at least, were attempting to give me a set of critical thinking skills that would allow me to be a more functional adult person, right? But we're missing that in society a lot, right?
Oh, big time. Definitely. We're definitely missing that an awful lot in society.
So let's let him cook.
Etc. I worry a lot about that. But I also worry that, and maybe this is something we could talk about, that there's something about the marketplace, mate value, evo psych stuff that I know you're very interested in. I've revised Paul Eastwick has a book out called Bonded by Evolution. Do you know his stuff?
Yeah. I had him on the show.
Oh, you don't?
We had a long debate.
Right. And I'm not going full Eastwick on you here.
Please don't.
But I do find that here's the bit I do like about it, is that if we're serious about thinking about kind of ancestral mating patterns, we do have to take seriously the fact that we didn't live in cities of 10 million people with a phone, right? That wasn't the marketplace we faced. We were in.
But that's important because now you are in the big zoo of the city and the algorithm can catch you, right? And then as you lean into your algorithm on any platform, right? So when you and I go over these kinds of videos, we'll pull up our feeds, our algorithm, and you look at mine and go, oh my God. I'm like, yeah, I have to go to Ground News or Epic Times. Like I have to go find other avenues because my algorithm is just shifted so bad. Right.
Yeah, I know there's an ability to clear algorithm and, start from fresh, but the minute you start researching one video, you're straight to the funnel straight away.
Right.
That's what I find. It's crazy.
I created an alternate, I don't know, ID or alternate
account.
And when I went in to find left-leaning liberal stuff, the fringe stuff, right? Like straight blue hair out of the box, wild demonstrations, anti-ICE, anti-federal supremacy. That feed within 30 to 45 minutes after 7 or 8 videos was just awash with wild things. I was like, I didn't even know this was on the internet, right? This just seems completely unhinged. And I even look at yours and your bent is kind of close to mine, but it's still different enough that you're going to get a different set of options, right? And a lot of that's a Section 230 problem too. And that has to do with platforms versus those who produce content, which is a law in the United States that probably isn't going to be affected. It's too effective for propaganda to not have it work the way it's working now, even though it's against that Section 230 in the communication code. So anyway, let us get back to this, the mating strategies. Oh, and what he said, did you hear what he said there about part of what somebody wrote was really good, but I don't believe all of the things, right? So that's critical thinking. He has a really good point, but a lot of his other stuff isn't something I can really function with because it doesn't jive with how I perceive the world, right? So my paradigm doesn't allow it. He's
still willing to look at it and argue the point and think about it.
Yeah, it's outside my paradigm, and I can't really manipulate that concept the way that they do. But here's a good piece of the thing, right? And it makes a lot of sense, right? So here we go.
Smaller groups. So maybe you've done this with him, smaller groups, and we kind of would know these people and they'd kind of come with us. And the whole idea of kind of mate value does shift a little bit over time. And so my middle ground here is that it's clearly insane not to suggest that there isn't something, quasi market or a mate value thing going on. But there's also something quite interesting about this idea that kind of knowing somebody or someone being known by the people among you, that becoming socially sanctioned, like someone you meet through the workplace, friend of a friend, etc. That's very powerful as opposed to someone you just algorithmically got attached to on an app on the other side of New York.
I don't think
that's not how we evolved.
I agree.
Right.
That's completely unnatural. Completely unnatural.
Exactly.
So because
it's not a natural way of meeting anyone.
No, it's not. And it causes lots and lots of issues because the people who you are around cannot have an opinion or give you direction on the interactions they've had with someone in the past, right? Johnny's a good guy. He owns a couple of horses at that ranch over there, and he took care of his dad. And I have a story about this person. I know this person. Here's some input to help you make a better decision on mate value, right? Not if you're going to do something yay, nay, whatever, but what is the value of that individual as perceived by the community? which is a huge step up. This makes sense.
It's a very sexy argument, and the argument is mate value. He thinks mate value simply doesn't exist, that there is no way that beyond the first look, anybody is more or less preferable than somebody else, that revealed bonded preferences over time end up flattening the mating dynamic down, that 10s could get with 3s and that 3s could get with 10s.
That wasn't how I read him. I didn't read him that way. I think that's an exaggeration, but maybe I'm wrong about that. So I think it just gets flatter, not that it flattens completely.
He said there is no such thing after a couple of meetings. There is literally no such thing as mate value. There is no such thing as a disparity.
Well, he's more of the expert on his work than I am, but I read it as like mate value is a more complicated idea.
I would agree with that. I would agree with mate value is a more complicated idea. What makes me sort of bristle a little bit, or what makes me concerned, is if you've got this world that basically flattens it makes egalitarian the mating market is one way that
but it makes it egalitarian, and it makes it egalitarian on appearance only, right? So it means that 10 to 15% of the men are getting all of the women, because all of the women are going to be picking the man who is the most physically attractive on the app. So the only value of the mate is their physical appearance and not their moral compass or their ability to cognitively drive or their ability to provide provision or secure. None of those things are part of that matrices. It's only the physical appearance.
Yeah, I see that quite a lot with the modern apps. Is that the best word I could describe? The modern dating apps.
Yes.
Are kind of designed that way.
Right.
And I don't think it's a natural way of meeting anyone, to be honest.
It's not. It's not. And then if you look at the statistics, a much higher percentage of women in the 18 to 25 range believe they're in relationships versus men, right? But the relationships a lot of these women are in are situationships when they're with someone who is very, very attractive, who isn't going to give them a relationship, right? That is not the purpose of that. That is a short-term mating strategy. That is just to get some laid. That's about what that is, right? And then it generates an emotional attachment that may not be there for the male, but is definitely there for the woman.
Could read it, right? That
right.
It is,
no one's hot.
Yeah, but no one's hot and no one's ugly.
Yeah, what's the Kurt Vonnegut short story? Harry Bergeron. Someone could check this. Where the minister, do you know this story?
No.
The Ministry for Equality levels everybody out, right? And so it's a satire. So it's like, if you're a really good dancer, you have to wear weights around your feet. If you're beautiful, you have to have plastic surgery to make you less so, and if you're ugly, you have plastic surgery to make you more so. The one that really, like, the main character of the story is like, if you're intelligent, if you're high IQ, that's right. Yeah, Harrison Bergeron. Yeah, if you're intelligent, they put a thing in your ear that's just making a noise all the time to distract
you.
Yeah, and it's obviously like a kind of flattening type thing. Yeah. So look, if the idea is like there is just no difference in how attractive someone is as a mate to anybody else,
right? Then the dating apps wouldn't have made any money. They just wouldn't have. Nobody would have bought in if there wasn't a difference in that physical appearance, which is functionally the first thing you think about someone when you meet them in a situation where it isn't community bred.
I think that's batshit crazy, but I don't.
Over time, even with
what you're saying.
Even with the revealed preferences, the revealed value that occurs as you get to know somebody a little bit better, this is how beautiful elements of someone's personality and the way they hold themselves and their poise and their patience and their regulation and all the rest of it sort of appear over time. I think that denying the fact that there are more and less preferable mates, and this isn't just idiosyncratic, that if you were to take a big, broad survey, that many people would rank as more preferable, even if you knew them for 4 years, and more other people would rank less preferable even if you know them for 4 years.
Yeah, my understanding of it, and again, like we're talking about his work now, but it was that over time you learn more about someone, and so more of their kind of different elements of mate value come to the fore, right? So if you just see me, you don't hear me speak, right? You just see me, maybe I'm mewing.
Yeah.
So I look great.
Yes.
Right? Like, right. Or I don't. I don't look great. But then we talk for a while, and let's say I'm kind or funny, or let's say I'm an asshole, right? That's going to change very significantly, right? And then you see me doing something hard for somebody else, right? You see me taking care of my mom. You see me, you see me working harder, right? All these things are adding up, right?
Revealed over time.
Yeah.
That was the best bit of what Paul said. I really thought it was a nice twist on the
Also understanding that if a woman doesn't find you on the attractiveness scale up there high, you're not going to, regardless of how you interact with them, you're not going to be able to have that as mate selection, right? If they don't perceive you as attractive, it doesn't matter what you do. You are immediately friend zoned. It doesn't matter how much time you spend on them. If they're not attracted to you, they're not attracted to you. They don't want those things from you. But
exactly. I see so many young men, well, a lot of men fall into this trap where they, how can I put it in a nice way, shoot for the stars. Is that the best word I could put it?
Right.
And it's damaging to both sides, because it's damaging because you're supposed to be a friend to this person, male or female. Now, the fact that you're in it for more than friendship is very unfair as well.
Well, it's an extraction of resources, be it time, money, whatever, service of some sort. But if there isn't any real opportunity, honest discussion would be better. Hey, I think you're pretty cool, but we will never have a relationship pretty early on, right?
Yeah.
It would seem to be the more honest way to go about it, honestly.
Yeah, I said more on the woman's side, extracting resources from the men.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen it more and more where they lead them on is the best word. They said they wouldn't lead them on.
And then they're doing TikToks and Instagrams and YouTube videos about how they gotta.
There was one particular video, I think I don't know if I sent it on to you, but I see that, the way it pops up in the YouTube shorts. And it was about this young man. Obviously, he started dating this single mother. Obviously, he, had feelings for her. She obviously knew he had feelings for her, which is, and she just strung him along for 3+ years.
Right.
I wouldn't say I felt sorry for him because, he was old enough. He should have had a small bit of cop on. But I've seen so many guys fall into these traps.
Well, I've seen videos where women talk about the roster, about the dude that's going to do her plumbing, the dude that's going to fix her car, the dudes that take her out on dates, and come on now, right? Pick one.
Yeah,
pick one.
Yeah, it's very disingenuous.
Right, so they're getting all the resources in pieces from all these different men, and they're not generating quality relationships with one person.
And I've seen men do the same thing to women, but not as much. You won't see that much online because guys have a tendency not to put all their business online.
Right. Well, but their roster is for a different purpose, right? They don't have a roster of women that's going to do their plumbing and fix their car.
No, their roster is completely different purpose.
Yes,
is the most polite term we can use.
The old spring fling of fun. That's what that's about, right?
There we go. Yeah.
Very shallow, sort of typical understood, and this is the internet interpretation of mate value, right? And what's interesting about this is it's almost exclusively for short-term mating.
Absolutely.
Almost everything, all of the mating advice is for short-term mating as well.
It's not like, so actually I got into this argument with Shadi Hamid for a piece of the Post where he said, are you telling me to settle? Because I said, we're talking about marriage. And I think the problem with the marketplace idea is that it sort of suggests that it's over once you've mated. But of course, that's just the beginning. That's
the burgeoning point of a relationship that has the potential to be very, very satisfying for all parties involved. Right?
Yeah.
That emotional depth that you can get in a relationship it's amazing. Right? So the short-term mating strategy is I've done to the process and I have short-term mated. That means get laid, by the way. So we've short-term mated, and then the process is then I will now again look for someone else to have the short-term mating process function with, right? So it brings the emotional value of interacting with that person and being in a quality relationship, developing yourself to be better for your mate, providing provision and secure and love and intimacy and all those things. And as those things deepen, it becomes a more valued relationship and a more part of your life and your function. But if it's just continual short-term mating, then you're not doing anybody any good, right? It doesn't do you any good to continue to hunt and search and get a little love and then go do it again. That's
I think what a lot of these young people don't realize is you're not young forever. Just to bear that in mind.
Oh, the old biological clock. She ticks, don't she? All right, here we go.
Yes.
And the story you tell about your relationship and the way that the relationship evolves over time within that story you're telling and the way you treat each other as you become different people over the decades, that's the job. And so the other problem with the marketplace is it doesn't capture this. It's about like maximizing, and you match and so on.
And then you cash out.
Yeah, it's like, and you've made a great match and that's the solution. No. And I said this to Shadi and said to others too. I said, sure, you obviously, if you're lucky, you'll fall head over heels in love and it will just be obvious. You'll find somebody, but it is much less about the wife you choose than it is about the husband you become.
That is absolutely vital. It's not about who you pick. It's how you develop yourself to be better for that person as your relationship progresses. Right?
Yeah, you both grow together as
for sure.
one unit.
Well, and here's another thing. It doesn't matter how much you love someone. It doesn't. The person you love will fail you. But provided they're a good faith actor and they're willing to compromise and they're willing to come to an accord, oh man, I screwed up. Let's talk about this. What can we do better? What can I do better? What can you do better? What led to the verbal kerfuffle? The communication skills. People are lacking those. They're just like, you hurt me, I'm gone. There are some things that are, in fact, functionally unforgivable. But those are things that you should talk about early in the relationship. Hey, please don't do X. It causes me distress. Please, like...
Exactly. These are my red lines, and so on. Just have an adult discussion, which seems to be lacking these days.
Not just one discussion. Not just one. You need to... Because as we develop as people in a relationship, we need to redefine our terms. And we need to say, hey... it comes to my attention that this thing that you do is a bit troublesome, and not condemn it, but say, I don't understand why you're doing this. And a lot of it has to do with perspective. I don't perceive I'm doing a wrong thing, but you're very, very unhappy with the thing I've done. I don't know if it's a previous relationship you had. I don't know if it's something you learned at your father or mother's knee. I don't know. But if we can develop better as people and achieve these kind of compromises, we can just have better relationships overall. Right? It's not it's not easy. It is not easy.
Exactly. I think even having those discussions, say, on politics with people and so on, try to find, no matter what discussion it is, communication is very important for society. Overall, I think.
Overall for society, and then especially in a relationship. If you're going to be with a person, then you need to do the best you can to be the best you can be, not for them specifically, but to just be a better person. Again, if I'm doing the best I can to be a good faith actor, right, and I'm doing the best I can to come to appropriate compromises and be the best I can be, then I can be better for you. But those two important pieces. It's hard work, do the hard work, and two, come to the appropriate compromise by making sure that we're servicing the relationship as best we can. It's just super important. Right? And people don't want to do that. They want short-term mating strategies that end up with a lot of short-term fun. Let's get a little tipsy. Let's go do some naughty things. Yay. And then you just go do it again. That reduces the value of any relationship that you have in the future when you fling like that. It just does. Right?
Exactly.
So, anything more for the good of the people?
No, actually, I think it was a very interesting video, actually, overall. Very, very interesting interview.
Well, you took us on some wild tangents, Patrick. Maybe
I wasn't the only one. Well, we do have a tendency to kind of go off track a tiny bit, as they would say.
Okay, well, maybe it wasn't just you. All right. For Patrick McCallum, I am Alex Johansson. Like, subscribe, ring the bell, do all of the things, and help us beat the algorithm. For the A&P Gents, and we are